feel of this.
Okay, I'm rolling.
Okay, cool. So this is the initial thing that we went over when we talked about the dopamine production when it comes to Parkinson's. Okay, so we need the amino acid phenylalanine to turn to tyrosine, and then insulin and leptin levels have to be normal in order to convert tyrosine up here, where then we need to basically have the B vitamins available, no anemias, and extra oxygen. Okay, so when we look at this from the perspective of what they've done in the past, we determined from your lab work that we did here that you have a specific genetic marker, the MTHFR genetic variable, which basically means you lack the enzyme to convert to active B vitamins. Okay? The reason that you lack that enzymes comes off of this test that they've done for you in the past. Those enzymes, those methyl groups that you need, get used up by a mercury level that's basically off the chart. So what happens is, instead of using those enzymes to detoxify, to create B vitamins, you're using it all to detoxify this massive load of heavy metals that are in your system. Now again, don't misunderstand. It may not necessarily be you were exposed to more mercury than I was, or you were. It's just some people's bodies don't do well with it. It's almost like, again, an allergy concept. You don't vibe well with it. So then we use those up, and then interestingly, they measured the amino acid analysis, and the two that we came up low in were phenylalanine and tyrosine, which, again, going back to our original paperwork here, they're the two things that become dopamine in the system. So, so we would say, well, there's MTHFR genetics in other people. I have one flipped on. It's just one of those things. Well, why does this become Parkinson's for you? Well, goodness gracious, I mean, why wouldn't it? Where every place that this would get synthesis of dopamine, which Parkinson's is all about dopamine, we lose you. We have not enough of this, which makes not enough of this. We're insulin resistant and our leptin levels are too low, so we can't transport it to the top. We certainly are low on oxygen because your acidity levels are way too high. We know we have anemia, and we have the genetic markers, which is going to let us know that the B vitamins aren't there. So it's that kind of level of delving into this, so where we're going to make sure we give you plenty of this, that we're going to make sure it can convert to that, make sure the liver's cleaned up enough to make that happen, make sure your insulin and leptin levels are normal so that you can convert it to here, make sure we get the oxygen into your system, solve the anemia, get you the specific type of B vitamins that you need in order to get past that genetic variable. You do all of those things, and then you sensitize those receptors to the dopamine, you will have that pathway. And then that's where you see these huge, crazy changes in Parkinson's-based type symptoms, and you'll live a happy, healthy, normal existence.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. But I just thought that was kind of interesting that it filled in with the lab work, even from the past. It just kind of backed up so much of the stuff that we were talking about. You just did between there. So, that being said, how are you feeling?
Pretty good.
Good.
I had a golf lesson today.
Oh yeah, how'd you do?
Well, I had some good balls.
Okay. All right, I'll take credit for that. If you did bad, then we were gonna say it's not my fault.
But most importantly, my back didn't hurt afterwards.
What's that?
My back didn't hurt afterwards.
Good. Yeah, that's good. Like I said, controlling the pain level here becomes step one, and that's always really key. But yeah, that was amongst the other stuff in that packet, some cool stuff in there. What we found in the front end is, after a while, if it kind of looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. With Parkinson's, they're going to be deficient on phenylalanine and tyrosine. I mean, you just know it, because otherwise it wouldn't be there. So, can you test it? Sure, but it's an expensive test, and everyone's got it. If it doesn't work out that way, then we could always kind of look back at it. That's why we typically don't just reflect to that, because that's the issue. But we do test in the places that they don't look for a lot of the times. Are those places where we get tripped up? Are your insulin levels normal? Are your leptin levels normal? Do you have anemias? Do we have oxygen deprivation? Do we have that genetic marker that screws up all your B vitamins? So you mass give people B vitamins, and it actually makes them worse because they can't synthesize the B vitamins. So you put more stress and strain on a system that can't do it. You actually have to give them, so say it takes 10 steps for a B vitamin to become active. Now, again, with the technology on our side, they make those B vitamins in the lab to where they're already into the active form. So it does the 10 steps for you, takes the pressure off, you put it in, they immediately start to activate. even that, we used an oral supplement for a long time, worked pretty well, but not great. The liver would detoxify a lot of it before it actually got there. And the science is still even kind of split onto why that happens. The thought process is because of the type of chemical that they have to, the type of change that it makes at that point. Once it gets to your liver thinks it's alcohol, and it detoxifies it. So when I say chemical, I don't mean anything synthetic. I mean actually just the way it converts. So now they've actually created a cream that you can rub on that goes directly to the bloodstream. Works so much better. Again, I still don't mind the oral if that's all we got, but the cream now, again, another company's created a cream that works even better than that. So, and people notice big changes with that very, very quickly when we get into that sorts of stuff. So, well, I'm glad the back didn't hurt after the golf lesson. That's a good step.
I'm eating a lot of balls.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, I wouldn't want you. I want you to kind of take it slow and steady. Give yourself a little bit of a break, catch up.
Yeah, we're twice a week for 30 minutes right now with this guy, so
Okay, that's
it's
cool.
not anything too heavy.
As these points that you're pressing on, is that something he could do for himself to help himself? Does that do any good?
You know, originally when we got the creation of this, that's what we thought. We thought we would be able to show people how to do this. It doesn't work when you do it to yourself.
Okay.
It's something about lifting the arms and
Okay.
putting pressure down that it activates the musculature in a way it doesn't work. Like I can't do it for myself,
Okay.
and we can't. If we can figure out how to do that one day, we're definitely going to show people how to do it because it makes life a lot simpler.
Sure.
But for some reason, it doesn't seem to work when we try to apply it to ourselves. I keep playing with it, but so far I've ended up at a dead end.
So, Doc, I wanted to ask you, I saw a documentary, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead.
Yeah, sure. We play it in here all the time.
I know you play a lot of great ones. So I was wondering about what doing a juice fast would do for my dad. Would that be a positive thing? Because when he started talking about breaking into the micronutrients, cleaning up the cells, healthy cells, healthy body type of thing,
Yeah.
it sounded like a similar approach to what we're talking about.
A lot of it is. And again, for me, I just take the clinical step of I like to build people up first before you start doing that, just because you limit the amount. I mean, breaking down food on that level is tough for the body. That's a lot of work. You got to make sure the digestive system can handle that. Otherwise, they detox real hard. You end up re-digesting real hard. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's more gentle ways you can go through something like that where that can be pretty intense on a person. But yeah, there's lots of points where juicing and using that as a form of detox is actually really, really helpful.
Because I know both Chris and I, which are the two contact points for Dad here, we both have juicers. We've both done it and are fans of it. And
We'll
so,
show you how to do it.
Yeah, so we can incorporate it at least.
Yeah, no, we'll show you how to do it. It's actually a good thing. I actually even use one protocol, we'll get to that as we build up here. It was originally designed as an alternative cancer treatment. Gal, she was nominated for 7 Nobel Prizes over the course of her lifetime. And it's basically a very simple thing. She's using, it's called the Budwig diet. It's using a combination of flaxseed oil and cottage cheese, low-fat organic cottage cheese. It neutralizes the dairy because of the sulfur, and basically what it does is it allows the antioxidant portion of those good parent omega oils, those good healthy fats, to get into the cells very quickly. It creates an electrical charge within the cell very quickly. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence about what it does for very advanced cancers and things like that, but it also plays cancer against a mitochondrial dysfunction, a cellular energy crisis disease. Not that different from this, except there's just other variables. And it works really, really well with helping build people up too. So it's one thing that we work into, with that as well. But again, there's a lot of different variables of what you can do with diet here, which is nice. And juicing is a good one. Yeah, and that Fat, Sick, and Dead is a pretty profound video.
Yeah, no, I was very moved by it, and it sparked all sorts of thoughts. And what I thought it was going to be and what it ended up being were much more dynamic. I appreciated it from the beginning. So this is great, but where it went and when he got that truck driver involved, and it was very, very engaging.
We just, for us, it's always like we like when people are singing this story, because we say it, and it's what we tell doctors constantly, and I have to go to Chicago next month to present on stage, and I'm like one of the few presenters. I have nothing to sell. I have no program to sell to them. I have no book to sell to them. I don't get paid for it. They're paying my way to go out there. I'm going literally to try to get these guys like a swift kick in the butt to get them moving so that we can create an army of people telling the same story. Because if they're telling the same story, then they'll start treating people that way, and then it just makes it all easier for all of us because then we're all congruent. Natural healthcare, we have a tendency of bickering amongst ourselves. Not that medical doesn't do that too, but we tend to circle the wagons and shoot in a bit because we have disagreements on what it should be or how it should be. I taught a teleconference yesterday with the doctors, and we talked about one of the doctors asked me a question about restless-leg syndrome. And I said, well, it's actually a fairly complicated problem. You can do really, really well with it, though, if you understand the neurology and the physiology. And one of the doctors says, well, he was a chiropractor, so I just adjust them and I give them magnesium. I said, a lot of the times it is a magnesium deficiency. I said, but why are they magnesium deficient? Is the $64,000 question. If you're just going to have someone come in and you're going to give them magnesium and you're going to close your eyes to it and hope that works, it's essentially practicing medicine but just using vitamins instead of pharmaceuticals. It's better. I prefer that, but it still doesn't solve that underlying issue of why are they burning through all their magnesium at a rate that's significant enough to create a system where their nerves are firing when they should be resting. So, that's the thing. When we talk about functional medicine, I think a lot of places just think it's like, well, we give some vitamins along with some adjustments that we do. No, it's really more of an idea, an approach of looking at the body as a whole and trying to piece together, the entire pathway of chemistry. Why does it happen, and getting to the ultimate core of how it goes, and then, trying to work your way backwards and reverse engineer, so to speak. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're doing great. No, you're all good. I was a different thought, actually. Another thing we're going to incorporate here is, you've mentioned it before, and I forgot, Chris reminded me that you mentioned it, but I've been thinking about meditation, and that's been a powerful thing in my life before. And we've got the Zen centers right down the street from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
I contacted the teacher there and told him what we were up to, and he loved the documentary, and
Sure.
so by all means. So, because that being like a workout for the brain, and any studies you have or any further thoughts you have about meditation and its effect on the brain, we'd love to talk about.
I'll give you the studies.
Yeah.
I actually have a couple. Because there's basically two hormones in the brain that when they go up, you get new nerve growth. And they found that a few things affect it. Obviously, diet affects it. Exercise certainly affects it. That's why we encourage activity and whatever you like. People always ask me, what's the best exercise? Well, whatever you like and you'll do, basically. It's for everybody, but it's really true. It's like, you like kickboxing? Good, do it. Whatever. But there have been studies, and all that stuff raises it. But one of the things that raises it the most is meditation. Both of those hormones go skyrocketing up to it, and it's interesting. We get all this way advanced, and then we go back to the beginning because you have all the shamanic principles of saying that was what they were talking about from the get-go. Now it's cool because we have this science to put our feet on the ground and back up what was considered woo-woo for so long. But for me, as somebody who's so concreted into the science aspect, it's stuff I always knew and gave credence to, but now it's just awesome because when we say, no, it's proved time and time and time again. It looks crazy sometimes, but this stuff absolutely works without a doubt. So I have the research I'll give to you. And I also contacted Dr. Gonzalez, and he said just give my cell phone number, and then you can hook up with him and just remind me to do that before you go.
He's the guy that invented quantum neurology, and that's one of the main principles of studies that we're using here. Yeah.
So at what point, I know you mentioned that, detoxifying the liver is kind of looks like the beginning of the process.
Sure.
So at what point does changing diet or adding supplements or whatever come into that?
Same time, and
Okay.
it's right around the corner. And it's literally our next major step. Like I said, first steps first is we always want to see how well we can control pain, how quickly we can control pain before you start creating a little bit more flux. Because at this point, neurologically, the system's out of balance. And when you ask it to detox, and you need it to be able to swing back and forth between, okay, detox takes energy, you got to kick in some systems, you don't want to be calm. And, I always use the analogy of like a runner. A runner before the race, the worst thing in the world for me to do for an athlete is this. Because we don't want to bring them down, calm them, level out their systems. We want to start building them up. So with them, we'll use the vibration platforms, we use different technologies to start speeding their system up because they need to be able to go in and run as fast as they can. Then you can calm them down after the fact. But in this case, we're staying sped up when we're not supposed to be. So we're trying to calm that down. But both of those are very normal. You know, if I got up and I decided to start running around here like a mad lunatic, hopefully my heart would beat faster. Hopefully my breathing would increase. That's normal. So we need to make sure that the body can kind of go back and forth between the two, because then if we start detoxing and the system's already ramped up and it's going to go back into that system, we spiral further into that, and then we see more tremors and we see more, you know, discomfort, more balance issues, and then, you know, obviously falling is a risk, and we just don't want that. So sometimes, you know, slow and steady wins the race. I learned that lesson, you know, over doing this with so many people. Is I've had people over the years convince me to push faster, and then I do it, and we always pay for it. You know, but it's not that we're going faster. Not that I say that you guys are doing that, but it's literally the next step. But yeah, and then again, part of it too is when we start putting stuff in, and then it's like, well, what aren't we reacting well to? If you do everything at once, now we don't know. Right? You know, there's a little bit of, you know, treading into it lightly, and that's why I don't even add all the supplement ends at once, because then it's like, well, he doesn't vibe with this one. I muscle test out as much as I can, but again, nothing's 100% exact science.
And you're right, and I know, like, I'm pretty sure I can speak for my sister and my dad here too, that no one's asking you to move fast.
Oh yeah,
They're
no,
just
no,
curious.
yeah. No, absolutely, yeah, no. These are good questions, and you know, the time lays out of it all. It's just, you know, again, when we're teaching this to doctors, the concept of wanting to teach to doctors, it is about that touch. You know, I said, well, when do I go to that? The answer is like at the exact right time. You know, and it's different for what everybody's at, and then that's you know, that's what I said, you can't cookie cutter stuff like this, but it's why we don't have the time to race. You know, like I can't see 300 patient visits a week or more like I used to. It's just I just don't have the time to really give the right kind of care for each individual person and sit and take my time and really make sure that I'm not missing anything.
As opposed to just giving an adjustment into magnesium, right?
Yeah. Again, I did it because the evolution of this went through all of those stages. At first, it was just adjusting, and I was like, that's all we need. Then I was like, that's crazy. Because, you know, even in our world as chiropractors, we always talk about the concept of a subluxation is that it's a bone out of place that interferes with the nerves. But we always talked about the fact that the 3 T's, thoughts, traumas, and toxins, cause subluxations. So I said, well, where are we getting off saying we're doctors of cause if we're just treating subluxations, but we're ignoring the fact that these 3 T's will come in and affect this? So we're not having conversations about diet or minimal. You know, obviously a certain amount of stressors, there's only so much you can do to remove somebody from that life, but there are things that you can do to build up their stress response, you know, nutritionally and things like that. You know, chemicals, there's lots you can do. There's lots of detoxification programs you can put people through, but if they're eating a terrible diet and their gut's leaking, they're just going to keep, that's what would frustrate me to be was, as I was going through this, not only were my patients staying in these chronic disease patterns, but I kept seeing the same subluxation patterns. Time after time after time. They were never checking clear, you know, there was never gone. I'm going, this is just keeping re-injuring. You know, it's like a sprained ankle and somebody keeps running on it, and you're expecting it to heal, and you're taking infinitely more time if it heals at all. There's got to be more to this. And so then the evolution is, well, maybe they need some vitamins. And then you were, okay, but then you were matching symptoms with vitamins. Better than pharmaceuticals, and people did better, but then when you started to really have this conversation of looking at labs, addressing each person individually neurologically, getting into their life, you know, what are they eating, how are they eating, what are they allergic to, making it specific for them, then it made, you know, then we made light years of jumps, and then you start seeing these crazy, you know, life-altering type changes.
Well, like you said, Parkinson's is not a one-size-fits-all.
No, I mean, look at that. There's no tremors, right? I mean, you know, when you say Parkinson's, I mean, the first thing that the majority of people, including doctors, think about is tremors. And my other Parkinson's patient right now, who's doing fantastically well, his big thing was tremors. You know, his big thing was tremors. He had no pain, 0 pain, but he had tremendous tremors. Now those are pretty much resolved, you know, in about a month. And big thing with him was his doctor had told him, his doctor told him eat eggs. Every day, eat eggs, they're brain food, which is not an untrue statement. His doctor's not wrong. The only problem was this guy's like a step below anaphylactic to eggs, allergy-wise. We took him out, it's like in a week your life's going to be real different. And 8 days later, he walked in here a different guy. Just with that. You know, his energy levels, no more crashing in the afternoon, you know, no or any of that stuff. And he was noticeably more upright. See, where we lean more to the side, he hunches. You know, but it's still, you know, there's still battle still rages on out there. We just had a stage 4 breast cancer patient who her oncologist told her absolutely under no circumstances come here to me. And you understand it. She's got a 3-month death sentence. In 3 months, with all the treatment they're going to throw at her, she's guaranteed to go. That's what they're telling her. She's like, sorry, you know, they're telling me not to treat. You know, they're telling me not to treat here. I was like, well, you know, let's change the ideas. You're not sick. I'm not a doctor. I'm a stockbroker, retirement person. I tell you, come here, give me all of your money, and in 3 months I'm going to lose every single penny of it. And in order for us to do this, you can't see anyone else, seek a second opinion, or look at any other investment strategies. Deal? I was like, how quick would you fork over that check? No, I wouldn't. Look, if they came to you and they said, look, we have a 90% chance of getting you resolved. Fine, great, that makes sense to me. Okay, great, yeah, there's a 90% chance you're going to double your money. Deal. Let's do it. You know? But, you know, in 3 months, you're a goner. Why wouldn't you look? Now, I'm not saying we could or couldn't do anything to try to get her body to heal fast enough that it could maybe, you know, buy her some more time. But why wouldn't you look? I mean, if I was a doctor and I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle this, my first thing would be let's recruit help, right? Because ultimately at the end of the day, it's about getting them better and trying to make that not happen in 3 months, whatever you can do. That war still rages out there, and it's scary, and not everybody, it's getting better, but it still rages pretty nasty. And again, my problem is I don't care, it's not about that for me, it's about the patient gets caught in the crossfire. And she's believing in all of that to the point of where she's willing to put that she's willing to get that outcome just based on their word. You know, I'm not going to bet that.
In a previous video, actually, the first initial video that Bob did with you, you guys were talking about toxins in the air and basically how we are suppressing immune systems and whatnot. Are you an advocate of an air purification system internally, and if that is beneficial?
You can do that stuff. I mean, I think there is benefit to that. I think, you know, even greater than that is just making sure that we build up detoxification capabilities as much as we can, and then just be mindful of the fact that we're going to be out in that, and do what you can internally to make sure that your body's constantly detoxifying, because it's good, better, best. It's better, but it's not perfect, because we obviously don't want to just. Let me tap here, okay?
Yeah.
That's where his liver is, right?
The liver's a little bit higher, actually. Right now we're just firing nerve roots to his legs and his hamstrings, which are going to pull on his pelvic bone. Probably should explain that.
I was gonna say, you seem like you're reacting pretty strongly to something.
Yeah, so, okay, we'll sit you up. I'll sit you on the pen if you say. You pull on me when you're ready. Come on. Okay. Yeah, I don't have Tourette's. I don't freak out, but that's what we call in the natural healing world an ARC, an autonomic healing reaction. Basically, your body goes through an energetic change. I'm this close to you, so it hits me, and then I pick it up, and I have to blow it off. Because if I don't, by the end of the day, I don't feel very good. I have headaches and I don't feel good. So in the beginning, when I first started doing this, my hands used to get very tingling and very hot when I would work on people, and I didn't know what it meant. And I would feel the sensation of yawning, but I just didn't know what it was. So now I learned how to blow it off, and that's all it is. So you'll see me, sometimes I'll shake my head kind of violently, sometimes I usually get the sensation like somebody's tickling me underneath my arms, and I get kind of the chills. Sometimes I'll yawn. I have a friend who burps, which is the worst one that I've seen. but yeah, it's just some sort of reaction that comes off of there. So I'm not bored. You're not bored. I mean, I got a good night's sleep last night. It's not kids. It's just it's something I have to do in order to kind of keep going. Otherwise, everyone I love my patients because they're so wonderful, and they always ask me, like, I'm not giving this to you, am I? Like, I'm not throwing this off on you, especially if you're doing emotional stuff. Like, I'm not giving it to you. It's like, nope, I'm blowing it off. That's all this is, but please don't misunderstand what I'm doing. So I did have one patient, she was referred in by somebody else, and she was sweet, and she comes to me after we treat her, and she's like, yeah, that's significant. I dizzy heard she had vertigo. My vertigo's significantly better. I said, well, that's great. I'm so glad. She gets up. She's like, do you mind if I hug you? I was like, no, not at all. So she gives me a hug, and she dealt with it for a long time. And she says to me, oh, sweetheart, she pats me on the back. She goes, and your Tourette's isn't nearly as bad as they said it was. I said, oh, thank you. I said, I'm a little self-conscious, thank you. You know, and I just had to let it go at that. You know, but whatever. There was no need to get into the conversation about it at that point, but funny. This is what our lives are. So that's why I figured to explain it. I don't know if you've seen me do that before, but that was the biggest change I've had off of it so far, which is a good thing. More reaction, the better off we do. So again, keep doing the same things. We're going to start sitting in here pretty soon and start getting you set up for diet and detox and all that kind of jazz, and add some supplements in, and that's when we'll make some good chunks and dents. Good stuff. Okay,
Great.
good. Great. Let me get that number for you.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, before I forget. And let me see if I have that research.
Thank you. Did you notice that, Dad, when he was doing that?
Yeah. Kind of like sneezing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a strong reaction. I wasn't sure if I thought maybe he saw something he didn't like or heard something he didn't like, you know, in what he was, the vibrations were or something.
I worked with the energy healer before that his reaction was to yawn when he was like working on
Oh, so you're
shifting
familiar with
energy.
that then?
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely been through that, and his thing was yawning. And you know, he talked about it, you know, and ahead of time for the same reason. It's like, your energy's not boring, don't worry, you know.
It's so funny because, you know, I think an outside person looking at that would go, this is a crock of shit. You know what I mean?
A lot of people think that no matter what you say.
Yeah, but I mean, because the unfortunate thing, like you said, is still having to fight for legitimacy, is people would look at that and go, that just looks like old wives' tale stuff. You know what I mean? But I mean, it's a pretty broad spread wives' tale if it's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's my thing. I have to continually answer the cynics when I see things like that.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to start, you know, is with questions, because
Oh, yeah.
you want to be able to understand and be able to really believe it yourself, because that's a piece of your brain working for you or not,
Yeah.
you know.
What do you think of seeing Dad's treatment?
I thought it was cool. It was just fun to see. I mean, I think that what you've documented so far has been very thorough. So I don't feel like I was surprised. It was like, oh yeah, this is the table, and that's the bath of murkiness and you know,
Floating turds.
yeah, as my dad would say, floating turds. So, no, it's good to see. It's good to talk to him. You know. I don't think there's anything. I didn't have any questions. It was just more wanting to participate and meet him and just be part of the energy, the feeling, you know.
Yeah.
So again, he's expecting your call. Great. So you're not going to call and be like, "Who's this?"
Okay.
I told him you give him a buzz. I don't have that research, but I left my binder at home, so I'll bring it for you next time.
Yeah, and by anything, I know you come across a lot of things on the web, whatever. Like I've gone back and I found that MIT study. I may have been linked off of one of your articles. As a matter of fact.
I was just saying it's linked on my website.
And that's the thing. I want to now. My part of my thing is I'm going to go contact the MIT people, and you know, and I've got the people at Duke already involved, and start going to them and say, you've done the research. You're obviously trying to get it out there more. Let me give you a specific case and see if we can draw lines between. You know, so
Yeah, we'll share. That's good.
And like NASA too, I'm going to try to contact them because you mentioned that.
Yeah.
That's another great angle to get some of their stories.
You can even find that link will be directly off the QN, the quantum neurology one. I know he has that link for sure. I think I have it linked on mine too, but I know for sure he has.
And because that's directly government, I'll be able to get, I'm sure, whatever stats and things I need on that too. They have to.
Pretty much it's all on there too.
Wonderful.
That's a pretty technical article.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff.
Just blow people away, and they'll eventually, you know, fine, I get it.
Backed up with science. There's my science as you can throw at them. That's how it goes. All right, good. Well said.
Cool, man.
Wonderful, guys.
See you tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much.